Hello, it's me, Teacher Rana. So today, let's talk about the developmental tasks and challenges experienced during adolescence in personal development. Okay, so we all have identity formation in a sense of a lifelong process, typically forged at adolescence stage, including developing identity reflects sense of individuality as well as connections to valued people groups. We know the related dramatic shifts. You, as a teen, is involved in acquiring new abilities to think about the plan for the future, your plans, and to engage in more sophisticated strategies, decision making, problem solving, and conflict resolution. So, simple expected to you in adulthood is that you learn to acquire skills and you manage the multiple demands that will allow you to move in labor market, as well as the commitment to the family, the your community, citizenship, and friends. So, before we tackle more about the lesson, let's try to test your existing knowledge about this topic. So, let's answer the following questions. Of course, you have to write the correct answers in your notebook. Okay, so the first activity that we are about to unmask is you have to analyze and decide whether the person followed these guidelines for mindful speech. What are these guidelines? Okay, you have to ask yourself after reading the statement if is what I want to say true, is what I want to say helpful, am I the best one to say it? Is it necessary to say it now? Is it kind to this person and others? So it stands for think actually. As you can see, there are capital letters here and they are also underlined to, of course, emphasize the word think. It means before you speak, you have to think. Okay, so we will read the statements below. So you have to mark, check for yes if the character in the statement followed the guidelines for mindful speech, and you have to mark X for no or a question mark if you are not sure about it. So there could be more than one correct answer in each statement. It depends in you. Okay? The first one, I saw a girl cheating on a test. I went up to the teacher after class and told him what I'd seen. Very good answer. Next, one of my family was bragging about getting a good score on a test. I didn't want to tell him that I failed. I said, congratulations, then started talking about something else. Very good. Next. People kept telling me about this stranger caller, Mr. Lusung dyed or Mrs. Lusung dyed her hair. When I saw her, I didn't think it looked that bad. So I told her, your hair's not as weird as everyone says it is. What's your answer? Very good. Next. I did really well on exam. I said to my classmate, I got the top score. What did you get? Very good. Next, the last number is number 5. I saw Erica looking at her phone during a test. I went up to the teacher after class and told him she was cheating. What's your take? Very good. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about now the concept of developmental tasks. What is a developmental task? Developmental task is a task which arises at or about certain period in the life of the individual, successful achievement of which leads to his or her happiness and to success with later tasks, while failure leads to unhappiness and difficulty with later tasks. So the main assertion here is that development is continuous throughout the lifespan. Okay? So occurring in stages where the individual moves from one stage to the next by means of successful resolution of problems or performance of developmental tasks. Okay? So these are the stages of developmental tasks. We have infancy and early childhood, 0 to 5 years old, and we have also the middle childhood, 6 to 12 years old, and then the adolescence, 13 to 17 years old, early adulthood, 18 to 35 years old, and middle age, 36 to 60 years old, and over 60 years old is under later maturity. So, in what stage do you belong? Very good. Okay, so let's move on. In developmental tasks of infancy and early childhood, you learn how to walk, learn to take solid foods, you also learn to talk, learn to control the elimination of body waste, and of course, learning sex differences and sexual modesty, forming concepts and learning language to describe social and physical reality. Okay? While in middle childhood, learning physical skills is necessary for the ordinary games that this stage is actually doing. So building wholesome attitudes toward oneself as a growing organism, learning to get along with age mates, and of course, you also learn an appropriate masculine or feminine social role. And then you also develop fundamental skills in reading, writing, and of course, the calculating. And then developing concepts necessary for everyday living. And you also develop your conscience, morality, and a scale of values. And also you achieve personal independence as well as developing attitudes towards social groups and institutions. In this stage, you are also getting ready to read. Okay? Next is the developmental task of adolescence. So I believe most of you are in adolescence. So achieving new and more mature relations with age mates of both sexes, achieving masculine or feminine social role, accepting one's physique and using the body effectively. And of course, you also achieve emotional independence of parents and other adults. And then you also start to prepare for marriage and family life, preparing for an economic career, and of course, you are acquiring a set of values and an ethical system as a guide to behavior. So you develop an ideology, okay? Desiring and achieving social responsible behavior. Those are under the developmental tasks of adolescence. And then we also have developmental tasks of early adulthood. So in here, you are able to select a mate, achieving a masculine or feminine social role, learning to live with a marriage partner, starting a family, rearing children, managing a home, getting started in an occupation, taking on civic responsibility, and of course, finding a congenial social group. Okay, those are under the task of early adulthood. And then we also have middle age, a developmental task of middle age. In here, achieving adult civic and social responsibility. You also establish and maintain an economic standard of living and assisting teenage children to become responsible and happy adults. Developing adult leisure time activities, relating oneself to one's spouse as a person. Of course, accepting and adjusting to the physiologic changes of middle age and adjusting to aging parents. Okay, so the last one is developmental tasks of later maturity. What are the developmental tasks of later maturity? The first one is adjusting to decreasing physical strength and health. Okay, next is adjusting to retirement and reduced income. Adjusting to that of a spouse, establishing an explicit affiliation with one's age group, and meeting social and civil obligations. Of course, establishing satisfactory physical living arrangement. Those are under the developmental task of later maturity. Okay, so let's try to assess your own level of development by answering each question for this columns. Okay, using this activity, let's assess the own level of your development based from the developmental tasks that we tackled a while ago. Okay, so you have to write your own level of development in your notebook by answering the questions in each column. I'll give you time to do this activity. You did a nice job. Very good. So a while back, we talked about that developmental task of adolescence means it is a task that arises at or about a certain period in life, unsuccessful achievement of which leads to inability to perform tasks associated with the next period or stage in life. Okay, so what is the nature of this task, of the task? Of course, the nature of this is you have to learn to look upon a girls as a women and a boys as men, to become an adult among adults, to learn to work with others for a common purpose, disregarding personal feelings, and of course to lead without dominating. So those are the nature of this task. So let's read a story that we can infer in developmental tasks as adolescents. Okay, here's the story. So there are many people who are ready to work, simply do not know when to go find a job. So they wander from one place of employment to another. They are unorganized, and though they may be hired by a company, they often miss better opportunity. So finding a job requires planning. Once you decide the type of work you would like to do, how will you get the job? There are many people and agencies to help you actually. So one such agency is the School Placement Bureau. The Bureau is usually in touch with the personal directors of many firms, both large and small. So public and private employment agencies also have directors. These agencies can tell you of current opening and may even do the actual hiring. The help wanted section of a newspaper may also offer some promising leads to finding a job. Friends and relatives may be very helpful in getting you a job also. So ask them, but remember they can only get the job. It is your responsibility to keep it Okay, so let's proceed to the question that we need to answer after reading this story. The first question is, what does finding a job require? Write it on your notebook, okay? What does finding a job require? Very nice answer. Okay, number 2. What is helpful in finding a job? What is helpful in finding a job? Very good. Okay, the next question is, have you ever looked for a job? Why or why not? Very nice answer. So now, let's talk about more of adolescence. Okay. So, what is adolescence? Adolescence is the period of transition between childhood and adulthood. Adolescence is the period of transition between childhood and adulthood. Children who are entering adolescence are actually going through many changes. It may be physical, intellectual, personality, and social developmental. Okay? So adolescence begins at puberty, which now occurs earlier on average right now than in the past. So the end of adolescence is tied to social and emotional factors that can be somewhat ambiguous. So it has more than one interpretation, or what we call double meaning. Okay? So what is this adulthood thing all about? So this adulthood thing, if you remember the time or the thrill of being dropped at the movies for the first time to see a film or a movie with your friend while your parent ran errands nearby. Yes, that's really a nice feeling, right? That's what we call adulting. Okay? So, what are the physical changes of adolescence? There are 3 main physical changes that come with adolescence. So, the first one is the growth spurt, an early sign of maturation. Okay? And then the second one is the primary sex characteristics. So, this is the changes in the organs directly related to your reproduction. Okay? While the secondary sex characteristics, it is a bodily signs of sexual maturity that do not directly involve in reproduction. Okay? So, what can adolescents do during this time? So, you have to bolster your criticism to your family, school, and government with suggestions for practical improvements. Be as courteous and considerate to your own parents as you are courteous and considerate to the parents of your friends. Okay, you have to respect your parents just like how you respect the parents of your friends. Okay, and then how can your parents support healthy adolescent development? So while adolescence can be a trying period for both youth and their parents. So the home does not have to become a battleground. If both parents and young people make special efforts to understand one another, they have to meet halfway, of course, to understand each and everyone. Of course, always make sure that the respect is always there when expressing your opinions, your ideas. Every time you always have to practice respect. Okay? And of course, what are the intellectual changes of adolescence? Adolescent thinking is on a higher level than of children. So children are only able to think logically about the concrete, the here and now. Adolescents move beyond these limits and can think in terms of what might be true rather than just what they see is true. So they're able to deal with abstractions. They are able to test a hypothesis and see infinite possibilities. Yet, adolescence is still often display egocentric behaviors and attitudes. Okay, so what are the social and emotional changes of adolescence? Adolescents are also developing and socially, emotionally during this time. Okay, so the most important task of adolescence is that the search for identity. This is often a lifelong journey launched in adolescence. Along with the search for your identity, here comes the struggle for independence. So, to know more of this stage, let us answer the following questions. Okay, so the first question is, you have to answer the following question in 3 to 5 sentences, okay? Write it also in your notebook. So the first question, what parents of adults should know about alcohol? What parents of adults should know about alcohol? Number 2, does anxiety leads to higher or lower risk taking in adolescence? Number 2, does anxiety leads to higher or lower risk taking in adolescence? Number 3, describe the relationship between risk and protective factors for problem behaviors, emotional symptoms in adolescence. Describe the relationship between risk and protective factors for problem behaviors, emotional symptoms in adolescence. Very good. So I think you are ready to answer the guided activity 1. Okay, let's move on. The guided activity 1 is you have to write the letter of the correct answer in your notebook. So the first question is, the following are the developmental tasks of early adulthood except A. Selecting a mate, B. Achieving a masculine or feminine social role, C. Learning to live with a marriage partner, D. Getting ready to read. Next question. What is developmental task of adolescence? A. Achieving new and more mature relations with age mates of both sexes. B. Achieving a masculine or feminine social role. C. Accepting one's physique and using the body effectively. Letter D. All of the above. Next question. What stage when you are getting started in an occupation? A. Developmental task of later maturity. B. Developmental task of infancy and early childhood. B. Developmental task of adolescence. D. Developmental task of middle age. You are doing good, so let's move on. Number 4 is the period of transition between childhood and adulthood. It is the period of transition between childhood and adulthood. A. Infancy. B. Late childhood. C. Adolescence. D. Early childhood. Next is number 5, a task that arises at or about a certain period in life, unsuccessful achievement of which leads to inability to perform tasks associated with the next period or stage in life. A. Developmental psychology. B. Developmental tasks. C. Growth and development. Or D. None of this. Very good. It's time for your guided assessment. For this activity, you have to choose the best answer on the box. Write your answer on your notebook. Here are the choices. A. Adolescence during this time. B. Social and emotional changes. C. Adolescence. D. Intellectual changes. E. Parent support in healthy development. F. Cognitive development. The first question is, thinking is on a higher level than that of children. Number 2. Bolster your criticism of family, school, and government with suggestions for practical improvements. Number 3. Give your children your undivided attention when they want to talk. Don't read, watch television, or busy yourself with other tasks. Number 4. Begins at puberty, which now occurs earlier, on average, than in the past. The end of adolescence is tied to social and emotional factors and can be somewhat ambiguous. Number 5. This is often a lifelong voyage, launched in adolescence. Along with the search for identity comes the struggle for independence. I'll give you time to answer this activity. You can start now. The next activity is you have to try to find all of the hidden word search puzzle below. Words can be spelled forward, backwards, diagonally, up, or down. You can start searching for the words now. Good job! So now, let's answer independent activity 1. Look at the following scrambled words. Rearrange the letters to form the correct answer. Okay, number 1. Maturation skills are developed. Number 2. Exploratory and questioning. Number 3. School skills, social skills. Number 4. Thinking and acting. Number 5. Parent and breadwinner. You're doing a good job. So we have to answer the following questions for the next activity. As you can see, there's a picture here. So we have to criticize the picture and choose one statement. Okay. Next one is number 2. You have to explain the picture based on your understanding. And number 3. What did you learn in the story? Below is the rubric for this activity. You can start answering it now. We are almost there. So to wrap it up, what you have learned. So how do you know that you are stressed? What are the stress signals do you have that your friend doesn't have? So, being happy during adolescence period is finding strength in forgiveness, hope in one's battle, security at the stage of fear, love in disagreements. So, being happy is not only to treasure the smile, but that you also reflect on the sadness. It is not just commemorating the event, but also having joy in anonymity. It recognized that it is worthwhile to live despite all the challenges, misunderstanding, and times of crisis. So, in stress management, our increasingly busy lives cause our minds a lot of stress. So, stress is a mental tension caused by demanding, taxing, or burdensome circumstances. Stress doesn't just affect our mental state and mood, it also affects our physical health. And when we are very stressed, a hormone reproductive system is also is not functioning well. It also feels the stress that we actually feel. Okay? So, and for this activity, let's try to answer this one, okay? Write your answers in your notebook. So you have to create a table like the one in your screen and write all your experiences for being happy encountered during adolescence. And on the other column, you have to write all your stressor during your adolescence period. Okay, I'll give you a minute for this activity. You are all doing a great job. And for your assessment, answer the following questions. Okay, write T if the statement is true and write F if the statement is false. Write the letter of your answer in the blank provided on the left side of the test questionnaires. But in your case, you have to write the answers on your notebook. Okay, the first one. Cognitive task arises at or about a certain period in life, unsuccessful achievement of which leads to inability to perform tasks associated with the next period or stage in life. Number 2. Infancy is the period of transition between childhood and adulthood. Number 3. Adolescents are also developing socially and emotionally during this time. Number 4. Understand your children's feelings even if you don't always approve of their behavior. Number 5. Discourage your children to participate in family decision making and to work out family concerns together with you. Number 6. Help your children build self-confidence by encouraging their participation in activities of their choice. Number 7. Listen calmly. Concentrate on hearing and understanding your children's point of view. Number 8. Adolescent thinking is on a higher level than of children. Number 9. Being happy is finding strength in forgiveness, hope in one's battle, security at the stage of fear, love in disagreements. Number 10. Stress is mental tension caused by demanding, taxing, or burdensome. You did very well in this lesson. So, see you again next time.